Our project is about the insurance value of ecosystems, more exactly speaking, forest ecosystems related to natural hazards. You can see our team here. Mark Hanewinkel and Rasul Yusufpour just arrived from Freiburg this morning together with a brand new PhD candidate, Peter Antkowiak. We have also Perry Bartelt in our team from the Snow and Avalanche Research Institute in Davos, and myself from WSL, the Swiss Federal Research Institute for Forest, Snow and Landscape. So we have some additional cooperation partners, like, for example, eConcept and Environmental Consulting. We are working together with Swiss Hegel, who's interested in hazards to forests, and the Gebäudeversicherung Graubünden, who's interested to work with us concerning buildings and risks. And furthermore, we have some private enterprises dealing with risk management who will also cover the aspect of infrastructure and their risks. I guess you all know that forest ecosystems might provide some insurance, might mitigate natural hazards, for example, landslides, but also rock falls and avalanches. Avalanches, this is nicely demonstrated, this service these days with heavy snowfalls in Swiss and Austrian Alps. But as you can see on these photos, sometimes they are successful, sometimes they are less successful. And at the same time, these forests are prone to risk themselves because there are fire risks and also windstorm risks. And this is the basis for our project. We focus on the two asset owners, house owners and forest owners, prone to risk. Now, what could they do? Well, they could go to the insurance company and say, give me a financial contract. And interestingly, house owners do this very often, while forest owners hardly ever do it. Why? Because in Switzerland, for example, house owners are forced by law, for example, at least in some cantons, to do so, while forest owners are not. They could, as an alternative, go directly to the forest owner and pay them some money for ecosystem services by providing the insurance service. And the forest managers themselves, forest owners, could do some similar natural insurance by managing their forest in a way that they are not that vulnerable to natural hazards. Now, this does not take place in a vacuum. We have, for example, the government possibly paying after a huge event damage costs, so paying afterwards, and this gives an incentive to react to in a certain way or not to the asset owners. And further, we have several incentives, obligations, awareness-raising initiatives by all partners, and you see this is quite confusing. A colleague of mine told me, when I saw this figure, I was sure that you will never get funded. Now, obviously, we are here, and I'm very glad that my colleague was wrong, and maybe we can shed some light on this by looking at work packages. The first one will deal with hazards that are related to forest owners. The second one with hazards related to house owners. A third package that deals with the behavior and preferences of the asset owners. And finally, we will develop a business model, and this will take the whole thing into account. Okay, so we have several work packages, questions related to this, developing an insurance risk model for forests. So how does actually a certain management, which impact does it have on the insurance function? So does it actually make a difference or not? And if yes, how can we do it and how can we value it? What's the opportunity cost of this behavior? Second work package, advancing gravity-related hazard models. This will deal with the question, how can silvicultural measures influence the service, the insurance service of forests? In the third work package, we have determining the forest owners and house owners' risk preferences. So we will conduct some choice experiments in order to identify their willingness to pay for these services. And finally, we develop this insurance business model for the forest owners and or for the house owners, depending on the insights we get during the process of our project. What's the contribution to the goals of the NRP 73? Well, first of all, we want to expand the knowledge base by providing guidance towards sustainable use of forest resources, including this further ecosystem service. You might have heard that there's a lot of research going on for carbon sequestration, recreational services, and so on. We focus on one further service, this insurance service. Opportunities and risks. We analyze the conditions for this new insurance approach and try to find out opportunities and risks of combining financial insurance and natural insurance aspects. We don't know whether these are substitutes or complements, but we will try to find out. We have a business application. We will develop an operational business model and integrating these different value types. And we finally, or the overall goal is to mainstream ecosystem services into policy decision-making, into business, into households and companies' decisions. Thank you very much.